What's the best way to react when somebody on a sales call tells you that they need to talk to their partner, husband, wife, etc.? That is what we'll be discussing today. We're going to get into quite a lot of detail, so buckle up. And this video is for consultants or anybody selling B2B services, any kind of high-ticket offering. And although this is more frequent in coaching offers that this happens, that people want to speak to their partners, it also happens in B2B sales calls. And we know the situation, right? You're on a sales call, it's going quite well, you seem to have good rapport with them, then you tell them the investment, and they tell you that they need to talk to their husband, to their co-founder, wife, or to their imaginary friend Harvey. And with a solid 95% certainty, you can be sure that they will never even get back to you, much less become a client. However, there's a small caveat here, and I do want to cover it before we get into the meat of the video. In some cases, they indeed want to work with you, and they really want to run it past their partners. It happens. It's not an excuse. The case is rare, but you can tell which case it is by how they talk about it. If they say something like, listen, I love this, I really want to work with you, I just need to run this past my husband, we always make these decisions together, but I promise I'll get back to you by the end of the day, then you know that you're onto something and that they are being genuine. If, however, they're more along the lines of, well, thank you, this was interesting, I'm going to talk to my partner and I'm going to get back to you, then you know that you have a no on your hands and you're very unlikely to close them. So what can we do about all of this? First, we will discuss how to prevent this situation. And second, we'll discuss how to react to it when it happens. And although it's very unlikely that you'll be able to completely turn them around, what you can do to find some middle ground so that they still sign up. So if somebody tells you that they need to speak to their partner or whoever, you need to understand why this happened. And there's usually two main reasons for why it happened. Reason number one, you have not qualified them well enough. One of the earliest questions must be if they will be making this decision themselves or if there is somebody else who needs to be present on the call. And if there is, politely insist that they join the call as well. Now, depending on the maturity of your business and how good you are at sales calls, you can have a rule that you refuse to take calls with people when not all decision makers are present. And if they aren't, if they join the call and not everybody is present, you can end the call. How strictly you enforce this rule really depends on whether you can afford it, right? Whether you're busy enough with existing clients, and also how good your funnel is. If, for example, after they book a call, you have a series of emails that warms them up for the call, that gives them background information, that links them to testimonials of previous clients, that is very good. And if you have that in preparation for the call, then you can absolutely insist that everybody should be present. You've sort of maximized the value of your funnel, and you have done the best job you can to weeding out potential time wasters. If, however, you have nothing of that sort and you are basically talking to complete strangers who have booked a call with you, I suggest that you can be a little bit more lenient here and delay the decision for next week when they are ready to make the decision. In any case, refusing to take a call when not all decision makers are present is definitely a boss move, and I recommend you do it. It might lose you a small amount of clients, but it will also, on the other hand, impress many others, because if you can be that strict, if you can afford that, then you probably are good at what you do. And that gets communicated on a subliminal basis. Okay, so that was reason one for why it happened. You haven't qualified them well enough. Reason two for why they want to talk to their partner, you haven't sold them well enough. A sales call is first and foremost a transference of confidence. You cannot only convince their brain to work with you, you also need to win over their heart. It's an emotional decision. And before you get to discussing the price, the entire sales call is one journey up the eagerness scale. You want to increase their eagerness to work with you. And I would like to draw this. So let me hop over to Miro to make my point here. So basically a sales call is a gradual kind of increasing their eagerness to work with you, right? So you're kind of getting them up on this little mountain climb. That's how you can visualize it. And what happens is that there is, at some point, let me just use another color here. There is some point, you can call it the 1,000 meter line or like the tree line on this hypothetical mountain climb, where it's like beyond this point they are sold into working with you. They are sold in principle into working with you. You can totally tell when that happens. It's like they lean forward and they're much more bought in. You can totally tell that they buy you as a person. And this line, I believe, is actually what it means is that they would now say yes to working with you if you offered them to work with you for free. So if you're able to rationalize it why you would offer them to work with you for free, then this is the point. This red line is the point where they would actually say yes to you. But of course, we don't want to sell anything for free. We want to get paid. And so we have to bring them higher, 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 higher up. Why do we have to get them higher up? Because at some point, when we will mention the price, this is all this time they have learned what they have to gain from working with us. If we do a good job, this is where they are right now at the end of the pitch, when we've explained to them what we do and how we can help them. And when we have transferred the confidence that we say, I'm definitely certain that we can help you get your goals, right? And at this point, when you then mention the price, when they ask for the investment, you mention the price, always people fall down. Like their energy falls down to a certain level. And we don't know how far they will fall. It also is a function of how much can they afford versus, how differently priced you are versus the competition and so on. So there's many different variables in this. The fall will determine where they end up, whether they will be a yes or a no. And if they fall below this 1,000 meter line, it's going to be a no. However, if you have done your job actually really well, then they will not fall that far. They will only fall like here. And at this point, you've won because they are above the 1,000 meter line. But you have to at least get to that point where the anticipated fall will not be as far. But on the other hand, if you could give them like a rock solid conviction that you are the right person for them, you can get them to like 10,000, way beyond. We can even like zoom out here. We can just like way up here so that when they hear the price, they may be going to fall. Everybody falls. It's like every single expenditure is unpleasant. We don't want to be spending. But at this point, it's going to be a complete no-brainer because they are well below the 1,000 meter threshold. I'm sure you've had that experience when you just mention the price. They say, ooh, all right. Well, all right. What can we do? Let's do it. You know that kind of moment? This is when you know you've got them really well above the 1,000 meter threshold. So I'm back here. What can you do to get them to those 10,000 meters? This is mainly a question of transference of energy and conviction and how much integrity you appear to have and so on. This is where the emotional component is going to be very important. And that is also why sales calls can be quite draining on your energy because you're like an actor who puts their heart and soul into the sales call. I'll be making a video on this topic very soon, but for the time being, let's just accept that it's this emotional component that makes all the difference between somebody getting to 1,200 meters and 10,000 meters. All right, so those are the two reasons why people will want to talk to their partner, or why they at least pretend that they want to talk to their partner. A, you haven't qualified them well enough before the call, or B, you have not sold them well enough. You haven't transferred enough conviction during the call. So what should you do when it happens? Is everything lost at this point? Now, some sales gurus at this point suggest that you should try to convince them to seek forgiveness and not permission from their partner, saying things like, oh, do you want your partner to be holding the keys to your happiness and success, and so on. I'm not a big fan of that. Sometimes it is feasible and it actually can be the right thing to do, especially when it is an emotional decision that the client is taking, right? For example, I have a client who helps women and nice guys be more assertive in the workplace. And in her case, it can be quite a good move to suggest, hey, listen, Mr. Prospect or Mrs. Prospect, this could be your first exercise in assertiveness. You cannot have your husband, wife, or whoever be the sole key holder to your success and happiness. Make this decision now, assert yourself. But in many other situations, I do feel that it is a little bit like trying to crowbar your way into their wallet after you've done a poor job selling them. So it's a bit of a lazy approach and I don't recommend it. What I recommend instead is this. You give them a no-brainer offer that reduces their perceived risk of working with you, changes their default to a yes from a no, and gives them enough time to talk to their partner if there is actually a partner to talk to. What do I mean here? It sounds very abstract. I'll give you an example. Our flagship program costs $7,500 to join. And while we offer two guarantees, we have a money-back guarantee and a 3 times ROI guarantee, I'm not always able to get them high enough over that 1,000 meter threshold. But the interesting thing happens when they fall below the threshold, but not very far below. Let's say they fall to 800 or 900 meters, right? At this point, you can tell that they are struggling with the decision, but they still end up saying, yeah, I need to talk to my partner or whatever. So here's what you can do. Number one, you lower their perceived risk threshold with a reduced financial commitment. What I offer is that I will enroll them in our program, but they have to pay a deposit of $500. And they, using our program, will prepare for our first session. And we will actually run that session. And if at the end of the session, the person is not convinced that they want to work with us, then I refund them completely on the call. And this is a low risk offer that has worked many times to get these kind of hesitating people over the line. Number two, what this does, it changes their default to yes, right? Because this is such a no-brainer offer, such a low risk offer, they will now be in the mind frame of, I said yes to Michael. And the brain tends to rationalize decisions we already made. And so this is a yes decision, and it will get rationalized over the coming days. We are simply deeply wired to respect defaults. And number three, this now gives them time to talk to the partner if there is one. And it also, because of the default change to yes, it will make the conversation very different. Suddenly it moves from, hey, honey, please give me permission to join this program, to, hey, I made this decision. I'm going to be working with this guy. I can still, get out of it, but I just wanted to let you know, I hope that's okay with you. So this no-brainer offer is a really, really cool thing to do. And I strongly recommend you try something like this for yourself. What possibly can you offer that will at least commit them somewhat, that they have to pay a little bit? They have very low risk, low to no risk of working with you, of giving them actually a taster session of working with you, while at the same time changing their default from a no to a yes. And if somebody is not willing to even do this, then it's absolutely clear that what they said that they want to talk to their partner is basically just a front for a no, that they don't want to work with me and they just want to let me down easily. So if they do that, I consider the conversation over and the deal is lost. So that is what I do. I make sure that I, A, qualify them before the call. Number two, that I sell them emotionally with conviction very well on the call so they don't fall below the 1,000 meter threshold. And then if they still say they want to talk to their partner, C, I give them this no-brainer offer that lowers their perceived risk, changes their default to a no, and gives them a little bit of time to talk to their partner.